Morning, this is Poor Man's Wash in the New Water Mountains. I'm going to break here, talk a little anime. Jii-san, or Planet of the Beast King, is a recent sci-fi anime series recently released in North America by Funimation. The story is set in a distant spacefaring future. One day, two 12-year-old twin brothers come home from school to their pastel-colored futuristic home to find their parents murdered. The kids are taken prisoners, kidnapped, and immediately dumped onto a secret penal colony planet called Chimera. Chimera is a harsh place, overrun by lethal plant life, and of course it's populated by criminals and their descendants. These two twins may look alike, but they're quite different. Thor is quick, strong, athletic, smart and assertive, a real survivor type. His brother Rai is quiet and more frail. He might as well wear a name tag saying dead meat, unless Thor can somehow keep him alive too, in this world where men and plants pose dual threats. We soon meet some of the locals who teach both Thor and Rai and the viewer a little about the situation here. Zagi is leader of a bunch of outcasts, those who aren't members of any of the big four tribes of Chimera. And we meet Tiz, the girl who saves Thor from the maw of a giant man-eating plant and then drags her back to the fortress of one of those large tribes. Tiz immediately claims Thor as her mate. Within the tribe, named the Ochre Ring, Thor quickly learns the rules and politics under the tutelage of a young man known only by his rank, Third. As the name implies, he's number 3 in the ring's pecking order. Leadership here is determined by combat challenge. The leader of each ring is determined by a combat challenge, and if anyone can defeat the leaders of all 4 tribes, they're declared the Beast King, given a pardon to return to civilization, and sent back up. Thor wants to take revenge on whoever killed his parents, and of course he wants to get off the planet anyway. Who wouldn't? So he's making plans to become the Beast King himself. The majority of the story is about Thor's life on the prison planet, his fight for survival, his rise up the rungs of power as he grows up, and the underlying quest for revenge that drives his ambitions. To tell this story in only 11 episodes, near the midpoint the anime will suddenly jump forward 5 years, letting Thor go from 12 to 17 years old. Most of the story takes place on Chimera, and it's bracketed by the opening on Thor and Rai's homeworld, and it'll return to that mystery of their parents' murder near the end of the story. The story is based on a manga by Natsume Izuki. It's not shy about killing off cast members. For some reason I wanted a little more from this anime than I actually got, which wasn't to say that it wasn't a modestly entertaining popcorn movie, but I think I might have enjoyed the longer trip through the manga rather than the truncated telling in the anime. I suspect a lot of stuff has been omitted, and the anime is the lesser for it. There are clearly exogenous forces at work on Chimera, the pardon of the Beast King being just one of those. All the major tribes have a set of rules imposed by some unseen prison wardens. Despite the stated harshness of the world, everyone seems to have access to fashionable clothes and even a few pieces of high tech, like a flying snowmobile. The anime doesn't take the time to really explain how the local economy works, so there are farms or factories turning out this stuff. We'll just have to take that on faith. The omissions also affect the storytelling, and I don't mean just the jump of 5 years forward. The anime never sold me on the harshness of the planet. Sure, the plants are nasty, but aside from a few field trips, people seem to spend most of their time in pretty comfortable tribes, settlements, and fortresses. We never see any sign of people struggling for food or shelter or clothing or weapons. Nor do people fight each other very often, except during a few formal leadership challenges that don't happen very often. The only thing missing from the Ochre Ring Fortress seems to be a Starbucks. Despite the billing, life on Chimera just doesn't seem all that hard. Lastly, I had some quibbles with the logic of the reveals near the end of the story. Seems to me people weren't thinking very logically, and my brain kept thinking, but if that's what they wanted, then why didn't they just? And the finale seemed a little contrived, just so the series could end on a big, high-stakes action sequence. But at least it has a definitive conclusion that wraps up all the plot lines.
Listen! Become the Beast King! Then we can leave this planet and find out what really happened! I'll help you! Don't forget, Thor, you're my top. I'll follow you wherever you lead me. Oh, Tiz.
Have you dried your tears yet? Come inside. If you want to cry, do it in there.
The characters are a pretty good mix. There are a couple of very likable characters the viewer can identify with and cheer for, a couple of unlikable characters we can hiss at, and a couple of mystery characters that we don't know quite what to make of. There are also a couple of disposable characters who exist to conveniently dispense a little plot information at just the right time and then disappear again. None of these characters are what you'd call complex, however. Despite those reservations, I found Planet of the Beast King to be a surprisingly and genuinely enjoyable watch. I was more than willing to keep on going to the next episode to see what happened next. The story moves right along, giving it a nice blend of action and story development. The animation is by Bones and directed by Hiroshi Nishikiori, who also helmed Azumanga Daioh and Gadgard, among others. The art is crisp and clean, and the character designs are certainly adequate, and the art is definitely smooth and fast-moving during the action sequences. It doesn't have anything that'll knock your socks off, but it gets the story told just fine. Funimation's English dub sounded just fine to me, and I used that for my main viewing. I did find it unusual that the English soundtrack was Dolby 5.1 surround, but the original Japanese soundtrack was relegated to simple stereo. I guess that's just another reason to stick with the dub. Overall, I give Jii-san, say, 3.5 stars. I found it modestly interesting, very watchable. The story does kind of draw you into the world of Chimera, and it's easy to watch your way through the entire 11 episodes. It's a pleasant enough diversion, but ultimately a little unsatisfying. Funimation has released all 11 episodes on one 2-disc set in the US. I like the concept of releasing a series all together. I hope they do more series that way, even longer ones. That way I don't have to wonder if they're going to drop the title halfway through, or wait 2 months between episodes where I can forget the plot, the story, the characters, and pretty much everything else. Oh, and I wonder why Funimation didn't just translate the title. Thanks for listening.